The Mountain Manifesto, Escaping the Tribalism Trap. It's a world that's filled with uncertainty and division, and there's extreme ideologies on both the left and the right, and these can appear as seductive answers to society's ills. Each of them offers the same narratives of blame. They promise clarity and justice, but what they really give is new forms of oppression and conflict. Both extremes operate on the same dangerous logic, a belief in absolute certainty, the vilification of the other, and the subjugation of dissenting voices. Escaping the tribalism trap, it isn't just a moral imperative, it's essential for fostering a sustainable, pluralistic society. We should look a little bit at the dangers of extreme ideologies. We'll start with extreme right-wing ideologies. It cloaks itself often in nationalism, authoritarianism, and rigid hierarchies, and these movements exploit the fear and resentment. They portray outsiders, whether they're immigrants, minorities, opposing political factions, as existential threats. History has repeatedly shown how such ideologies lead to oppression and violence. The rise of fascism in the 20th century, the Holocaust, World War II, these are stark reminders of the devastating consequences of far-right extremism. But in modern context, that's not it. Far-right rhetoric often manifests through conspiracy theories, scapegoating, suppression of civil liberties. Studies such as those by the Southern Poverty Law Center have highlighted how these movements thrive on dehumanization and fear, fostering environments where violence becomes an acceptable tool for achieving political aims. On the other hand, you have left-wing ideologies. These can also lead to oppression under the guise of equality and justice. When taken to extremes, they risk suppressing individual freedoms in pursuit of collective goals. History offers numerous examples of such authoritarianism, things like Stalin's Soviet Union or the Khmer Rouge regime in Cambodia, where the promise of a utopian society devolved into mass suffering and oppression. Extreme left ideologies often justify their means as necessary to dismantle systemic inequalities, but they can also silence dissent, undermine personal liberties, and stifle diversity of thoughts. Movements that reject dialogue and impose rigid ideological conformity contribute to polarization and alienation, perpetuating the very divisions that they claim to combat. Tribalism is the engine of the extreme. At their core, both the left and the right rely on tribalism, the human tendency to divide the world into us versus them. This instinct is amplified by modern technologies that curate echo chambers, they reinforce biases, and they magnify ideological divides. Studies from organizations like the Pew Research Center show that social media platforms play a significant role in fostering polarization by prioritizing engagement over truth and creating fertile ground for tribal thinking like this. What tribalism does is it narrows your perspective. It fosters a blind allegiance to one side while dismissing the humanity and the ideas of those who disagree with you and your side. This creates a feedback loop of polarization where dialogues become impossible and solutions to shared problems are overshadowed by ideological warfare. So how do we escape this tribalism trap? The first is to embrace the skill of critical thinking, something that our society works very hard to undermine. People have to cultivate critical thinking as a skill. We have to resist the seductive simplicity of extreme ideologies. It involves questioning narratives, seeking diverse perspectives, and understanding that social issues are complex. Education systems should prioritize media literacy, equipping individuals to be able to see the difference between fact and propaganda. Next, we need to prioritize dialogue and empathy. Genuine progress arises from understanding, not from division. Engaging in dialogues with those who hold differing views fosters empathy and mutual respect, even in disagreement. We need to demand transparency and accountability to restore trust in our shared humanity. Both extremes exploit secrecy and disinformation to advance their agendas, and citizens have to hold governments, corporations, and media organizations accountable for promoting transparency and truth. Open access to information reduces the allure of conspiracy theories, and it fosters informed decision-making and allows critical thinking. We also need to advocate for inclusive solutions. So instead of aligning with polarizing movements, what we need to do is we need to look for inclusive policies that address systemic issues without resorting to scapegoating or authoritarianism, top-down thinking. Solutions that respect individual freedoms while promoting social justice are rare in our societies, but they are achievable when ideological rigidity is replaced with pragmatism and collaboration. Now, the entirety of this section is just to point out that the allure of extreme ideologies is nothing less than a human desire for meaning and certainty, but it's a misplaced one. The pursuit of a just and equitable society requires that we reject tribalism, not embrace it. And it requires that we embrace complexity, dialogue, and the shared humanity of the other. Tribalism is a trap, but it's not inevitable. It is a choice. And if we recognize the dangers and consciously foster empathy and critical thinking, we can all start to chart a course towards a society that values pluralism, values dignity, and offers hope for all, not just for some.